Hey guys, welcome to episode 1 of Shumimasen. This is the official episode 1. 2 weeks ago we released an episode, but it was basically kind of like a beta run, so episode 0 is what we're calling it. As we all know now, for our 5 listeners out there, this podcast is about geek culture, about banter, and about the power of friendship. I am your host, guys, and with me is your co-host, Raymond.
Hello, guys.
Truth is, basically after episode 0 last week, Raymond introduced me to a new game called, well, not new for me, called Apex Legends. So it's been fantastic. But the issue is that I was so hooked on it that we nearly basically cut Shumimasen out of our busy schedules of playing Apex now.
But we couldn't do that for our 5 fans, so here we are again.
Yeah, exactly. Really need to deliver our content, right, to our 5 fans.
Yeah.
But the thing is, obviously, Raymond, you're the one who introduced me, so obviously you play Apex. But for the listeners who don't, it's basically another Battle Royale game, kind of mixed in with a bit of Overwatch. There's a bit of skills and stuff going on, but nothing. It's nothing new, really, when you think about it, and yet it's so good.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, it's a teams of 3 battle royale where the whole idea is that you drop probably 20 teams or so and into a map of some sort, and you just let them fight down to the last team is standing, and then the mechanic that pushes everyone together is an ever closing ring that kind of funnels everyone to a single location, just to force them to fight each other. I suppose a big difference about this one is that compared to some other really big battle royales such as your PUBG, your Warzone and stuff now, this one you have the movement. You have a lot of movement in this game, so there's a sliding mechanic where if you hit your crouch button as you're going down a hill, you generate speed, and that just kind of pushes the whole game to a faster pace at some times.
Is there actually a story about it? Why are they fighting? What is the ring? I know obviously the ring is like a heat kind of thing, right? So it's like a massive heat. It protects you from, I guess, the sun or whatever. It's basically New Zealand in a nutshell with no fucking ozone layer, right?
That's what's happening to us. We're gonna have Battle Royale New Zealand
Our life
edition.
is basically Apex in NZ. You go to the beach, you just fucking like out of the ring. I
think the story behind it is like there's like I suppose it's like a blood sport that's been revitalized, and then they have like a game where a bunch of people compete to become the last people standing, and then you get to get like either a lot of money, a lot of riches at the very end if you technically win. But obviously in the game sense, that's just the background behind it.
Actually, talking about that, so you were describing the game before, and any of us who describes the game, we would say the goal, you kill the other players, right? You kill the other players, and you use it specifically, for example, is a blood sport, right? How would you describe the game as, one where literally you go out to, in a way, murder / kill the other players? It is, right?
I mean, that's the main point of the game, right?
That's literally the game. You finish, and yet it's meant to be firstly kid friendly, which is fine. I mean, let's be honest, we were playing like Doom since we were like 8, with all the blood and gore and shit, and that's fine. But what I'm trying to get at is, they promote it as this family-friendly game, and that's why, if you notice, there's no swear words in there. You can't even swear in there. You can't have any toxicity, the standard gaming toxicity that we're used to. You can't have any of that in there, which is fine. They're trying to create this kind of like environment, and all these moms and stuff love it, and for the listeners who aren't familiar with Apex, basically there was a not new but relatively newish, I think season like 6 maybe or 7, where Loba, who is a thief, basically was
introduced,
and she's quite what's the word, promiscuous I would say. Promiscuous, right? And if you look at some of the comments from like, I don't know, maybe Reddit's /our moms or some shit, whatever. You know, the mom forums basically. I don't think moms use Reddit. Let's be honest, it's probably something like text or
Or
SMS.
Facebook or something.
Anyway, yeah, or Facebook. You know, fucking sharing with her Facebook. What you notice is them saying like, oh, you know, I don't allow my kids to play Loba because, you know, she's too like overly sexualized and all that. But it's just in the game, literally, where your kid is like, all right, I need to kill like literally 59. Well, what is it? 57 other people.
Exactly.
Essentially to win. You know, it's never 57, but you know, you need to kill other people to win. And it just really begs the question that do you even? I mean, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on?
It's really like a double
Yeah.
standards kind of things for those people. Like
Right?
it's something that they may not see, something that they maybe see that they don't really like.
The funny thing is, exactly. The funny thing is, like, if you remember, I think it was maybe like not even 10 years, maybe like 6 years ago. Yeah, maybe around there. There was still that huge debate about, oh, you know, video games increasing violence in like youth and like teenagers, or whatever, right? You remember that phase where like
That was a hot topic.
the story, the guy, yeah, exactly. The story of that guy who plays WoW and like hacked someone to death with an
like the
axe.
people that I think that was like when all the war games were becoming really popular, or like your Call of Duty in a Battlefield, and people were like, oh, it's gonna promote gun violence or something.
I mean, you play Modern Warfare. Is it Modern Warfare 2 or 1 where you have the what is it called? The airport
that was a
mission.
Modern Warfare 2. The
Not
no
Russian?
Russian mission. Yeah.
No Russian. Yes. The most controversial thing, right? I mean, to be honest, it was pretty messed up. You walk in and you should have a room full of people. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna put not a pin in there. I'm gonna put interjection in there right now, a wedge in there, and say, in any game I've ever played, and this is really messed up, since I was like probably like, I mean, I started gaming I think like 8, 9, right? In any FPS I ever played, I always tried to shoot the NPCs who were just like standing there trying to sell me shit because I wanted to see what would happen. Like, literally, I would just be like, you know, it was like, I think back then it was like one of the Jedi games with Kyle Katarn in it. And there was just NPCs selling you shit, and I would just kill the whole town, like just for
did
fun.
it work for you? A lot of the times,
I don't know. It worked for me or whatever. All I remember is just shooting NPCs. So it's nothing new. I can guarantee all the moms out there and shit that it's not that it promotes violence. You know, we're really shooting people just for fun, but it's not like we go off our way to shoot people in real life.
No, it's like back in the day before the topic was that it was all like hip hop and rap that's promoting violence and stuff. I mean, like it's just something that people like to scapegoat and point their finger to, in a way.
I know. I think they need something to you know to blame it on, I guess. Like, oh, look at our culture. No, it's not that my parenting was shit. It's that I let him play Modern Warfare 2. You know, a game where pulling the trigger is literally pressing a mouse button because it's like so similar to shooting someone in real life. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
Especially since you've gone through you went through your training and everything. You know how like an actual gun operates, and I'm sure there's nowhere.
Yeah. I can totally, you know, go out and go into war and become a hero now because I play Modern Warfare 2. Everyone knows, you know, the most powerful guns are the SMGs, right? Yeah, let's do that. Like, it doesn't make sense.
The 20.
But I feel like because that, you know, that whole argument kind of is over because research actually showed that no, it doesn't really promote violence, and also that video games actually promote really good problem solving, right? So moms are starting to be like, and let's be honest, all these like Karens out there and shit, they basically they just want to have something where their kid will play for fucking like 50 hours so that they don't really have to do shit because
they can go easier, do their Facebook posts and stuff, something to distract you.
Like
that's why there's so much of those like iPad children nowadays, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they play Roblox and shit, and Roblox is cool, and we can get onto Roblox later. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, that conversation has ended now. So like, they have to be PC about something else in a game which is essentially about killing people. So it's like, let's pick on the girl who shows like literally basically a pixelated 1-2 mm of cleavage, and it's like, oh my god, you guys know this Pornhub out there, right? I mean, like, come on, any kid who has internet is probably gonna have to see that shit at some point with the pop-ups. If your kid reads anime or manga, you know on the right of that because not unless it's Crunchyroll or a legit site, but sometimes you got to go to those
The other sites.
other sites. Let's call it other sites. On the right of that is some dodgy ass eroge hentai game or
It's
some kind of like
definitely some dirty stuff on the side there.
right, exactly. If you ever torrented anything, all those affiliate links that you link you through to get that torrent, 100% you will have seen some shit. And so, I mean, welcome to the internet. I'm not trying to excuse it, but I don't give a fuck. Let's be honest.
That's how the beast is. If there is so much freedom in the place, there is definitely going to be.
It's funny. Exactly. It's there's so much freedom out there that I think it's at a stage where it's almost uncontrollable. Like I don't have kids, so maybe it's not my place to say these things, but I feel like it's one of those things where you kind of just has to, like back then. I mean, like we're talking like maybe like 20 years ago, right? Even sex education was kind of like, oh shit, taboo. Like, oh, I need to send my kid to like a religious school so that they don't get poisoned. That anything but abstinence is okay, kind of thing. And so you're talking about that and stuff, right? And even that was like 10 years ago, and now that is not, that's like recommended. That's like the go standard. Every school does it now. And I feel like it's one of those things, like video gaming, I guess education or safe gaming education has to be a thing.
Definitely. It's one of the things where we can't really prevent people from being accesses, but it's definitely like an education. The more educated our youths are these days to how they deal with the situation and how they like kind of process it and determine what is good and what is bad is, I think, definitely the way to go.
I mean, let's be honest, bro. The youth these days, I mean, we sound so old when we say that, but like, the kids these days, they're more like into this whole PC woke culture shit than us. I don't know about you. When I started gaming, bro, it was a cesspool of toxicity.
It was just normal.
Like you couldn't do anything at all. Actually, you did it right or you did it wrong, and you got hate. You got blamed.
Either way, you do it perfect. Someone thinks that you should have done this other way. It just allowed people to stand behind the monitor and just say their mind. Really,
it's insane. Like back then it was like just so toxic, and now I mean, you know this, Raymond, but our listeners won't. But in Apex, I literally got banned within my first week of playing because I was too toxic.
And it wasn't even that bad. We've spared the details, but it was very minor. It was a very everyday kind of passing comment. But
the thing is, I think it was for us Kiwis because I don't know if you noticed, like it's not that we swear a lot, but it's almost like when we do swear, it's almost like part of the language. You kind of don't realize it, and so like Raymond said, long story short, it was very minor, but maybe overseas, because we were playing in the Japan server, right? Back where they're all conservative and it's just a culture where they're very polite. Maybe it was like massively offensive to them. And so I get it, but the thing is, what I'm trying to get at is back then that would be not. It's like that's like saying good morning. The shit I did was basically saying good morning back then when we used to play like game. And all these kids nowadays are so into like cancel culture, woke culture, and all this kind of shit that like. I don't know if you noticed, even like YouTubers and stuff, they've really had to
really watch
almost change the way. Yeah. Like be very watchful for what they say, be very watchful for what they do, even what's on their screen. Like you're streaming and you accidentally leave your one of your tabs open that is like I don't know, like fat loss pills, for example, and they're like, oh, it's fat shaming, for example, and it's insane. Like it's insane.
It's a lot more vigorous, like policing over this sort of thing, and I think that
exactly.
Like I mean, I see the point of it, but it also like reduces like the amount of like creativity and the amount of like the personalization that you can do towards your content and stuff. But over here, we just say what we want. It's our raw self.
We're pretty chill about shit, to be honest, in NZ. I think it's just how we're raised. Like, if you don't like it, just kind of ignore it almost in a way. It's not. It's very. I guess it's a very American thing where if you don't like it, you need to go off your way so that other people, don't have to encounter it as well, kind of thing. Um, which is, I guess it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure, but yeah, I have noticed that a lot, and it's pretty intense. These days, like the amount of YouTube apologies and all this kind of shit that people have to do.
That has come up. Oh well, that's
Yeah.
just how the way
Well, I mean,
things are
it's a
going.
weird
Yeah,
world,
how the where's the world is going. We just have to live with it and deal with it a little bit. But yeah, it's something to bring up in regards to that.
Yeah, I mean, like talking about that, when we've been gaming for a while. When did you start gaming?
I probably started properly gaming back when I was like probably 7, 8. Yeah.
Yeah, damn. And what was the first game you played?
The first games that I played was obviously those like education ones that you play on the PC with like the little towns teaching you how to spell.
Did you ever play the game, what was it called? Did you ever play the game called like Freddy Fish or something? Or like those Carmen San Diego games, just like
I think
educational
I played
ones?
the variations of it. Definitely, there's like a little adventure.
The Hong Kong remakes.
Yeah.
Parents are like, nah, let's not buy Freddy. It's too expensive to buy Freddy.
Yeah, you find
Like,
some
bullshit.
cheap one. I remember having to follow a
Yeah,
train around on the little mission, and then they had to like, oh, which one's the green light? And you're like, oh, that one's the green light. You have to click on it.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, it's meant to be educational, right? And I remember playing it. Like, I think it's good for problem solving. I mean, I had to think about it the other day. Like, what it was actually, like what is educational, I guess, about it. And Carmen San Diego, maybe because it goes to like different places in the world. It's like a bit of geography and shit. So that's cool. But some of the educational, and I say that in bracket in quote bubbles, is
Situational problem solving.
I don't know. It's well, yeah, it's situational problem solving, and a lot of it is just kind of a game. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's an educational game, but what I'm trying to say is like it's literally a game. I mean, any game has situational problem solving. Let's be honest. Unless it's like I don't know, one of those chill like fish tank games where you just like feed your fish and look at the fish swim by. You pay like $400 to get like the whale or
a fish that has like 2 different colors on it.
It's insane though. Like people actually pay for that, and it's pretty relaxing. Like I had an app which was just like I can't remember what it's called, but it was basically an aquarium, and you were just like in the aquarium, and around you were like fish swimming around and shit.
Yes.
And I guess if you had too much of gaming and you just did it, it would be pretty cool. But I can't believe people pay for it.
It would be a very good passing time sort of thing, just like having that collectibles. People like to collect, like, how you collect marbles or cards and stuff. It's preaching to that part of you where it's just like, oh, you want all of this? You want to collect them all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up collectibles. Collectibles are the new, like, you want to make money as a company? Collectibles. 100%. Any game, any anime. I mean, in Japan, for example, when you went there, I mean, this was what 4 or 5 years ago now that we last were in Japan. No, maybe 3. Everyone who's gone there has at least stepped into Akiba/Akihabara at least once, right?
Definitely.
The merch for literally any anime is infinite. Like there's so much of it. Anything, any anime will have merch.
They're very happy to just like, even if it's like cheap little things, they'll have it for. I think because it will appeal to somebody, right?
Yeah, and they buy it. Like, they wouldn't make it if it doesn't sell, right? And so, like, the crazy thing is, a lot of this. I mean, obviously, there's a weeb culture out here. Like some of us. For example, you, right? You collect you have some figurines, right? Clearly, some would clearly not be straight from Japan. How do I say this? Would not have been bought in Japan. So you have sourced it externally. Same with me with some of my Gundams and stuff. And what I'm trying to say is, but they never kind of intended that. They don't intend it to be like, okay, I'm going to make this like Shinobi figure, for example, and like just for export to America. They make it for the Japanese market, right? So if you think about it, the market for those anime merch must be massive because every anime has like a billion things. There's like key rings, there's like mugs, there's like coasters, there's those Opie mouse pads. It's everywhere. It's insane.
It's such a wide net that they cast of objects that they just want to merchandise. It's like from tea towels to like everything, like any.
And the lewdest shit ever as well.
Sometimes, sometimes they have to appeal to that certain kind of person, but you know.
And so, I mean, that's just one kind of like pool of these whole geek culture kind of things, because most people who watch anime probably play games, blah 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 as well, right? And then you talk about games. Classic example: Apex Legends / EA with their like microtransactions.
That's a big thing that gaming has either gone to with microtransactions. It's like the new way. It used to be like, I think they used to make the most. I think people would survive with like a subscription based thing, but now not everyone wants to pay like $15 a month to play a game, and for some people it's not plausible to pay $15 a month, and that's fair enough. But like some people like might spend a few dollars or two on a object or a skin for the game, and I suppose that's
which is really just pixels. I mean, I'm not hating on it. I'm a huge, me, like fucking spend $1 million on gacha games if I could, but in the end of the day, it is a pixel. It's kind of like the whole. It kind of doesn't make sense to. I guess, like, let's say it was like, imagine explaining skins to your mom or dad. Mom and dad, I bought like, remember back then when we played CS:GO, the Dragon Lore skins. They were like, they were literally $1,000 bucks, weren't they?
They were up there.
Like, mom, I spent $1,000 on a Dragon Lore skin. You beat your ass, man. 100% should be
what the hell is going on?
What the hell? I put 18 years into raising this asshole, and he spent $1,000 on a Dragon Ball skin. And it's insane, but it's so big, and we know that, and we spend money. Like I 100% spend money on gacha games / opening all these kind of like microtransaction packs and all that. I don't know what the appeal is. It's just you want it. Like you look, it's the aesthetics. They've nailed it down to the aesthetics.
And I suppose the dangerous part of this right now is the how they have to manage the packs. The gambling sort of this side, right? Because like a lot of these games,
it's basically childhood gambling. You're right.
The things that you want, they put behind something that is like a luck based or a chance based thing. Right.
Yeah.
And that's like a big thing. That's like that everyone is talking about. Like there's not too much of a difference, especially if they don't tell you the rates of winning and stuff. Of people that maybe lose a bit of control or go a little bit too hard and end up spending way more that it ends up hurting themselves. And I think that's the important thing that we should look at in the future, especially with like regulations and stuff.
I think this. I mean, you're absolutely right, but I think it very much affects obviously the people who have addictive personalities. Which I don't want to touch on that. There's a whole thing on its own kind of thing, right? And the kids would never know, but one day their parents are gonna see a credit card bill coming for like $300 for whatever, opening like Club Penguin shit or whatever. Actually, R.I.P. Club Penguin. That's gone now. Love it. Best game ever. So the whole. I think it's. The sweet spot almost for these games are you cannot make it pay to win. You can't ever make it pay to win with money, but you need it to be paid to be beautiful. Right? If you make it right, like you P2B it and you got it spot on. You can have like honestly if you have any skin that looks good but literally does nothing else but looks good, you've got something on your hands that will make you money.
Because as gamers, I suppose, as gamers, so to say, a lot of them are competitive in a way, right? And I suppose if you see it in a really funny way as well, maybe like you get kind of competing on who has like the best skin or the coolest skin. There's like a bit of like showing offing, or like if someone sees you with the skin, they're like, damn, this guy is like looks cool.
This guy's you follow his Twitch now, and I think that's a lot of it. Like, if I was a streamer, if we ever got into game streaming, right, you would want to have a good skin. Like, it's just kind of part of it. It's almost like drip. You want to like that drip, like gaming drip. It's so weird to say that, but it's literally what it is. You buy clothes to go outside. You want good skins to stream with, for example.
You don't want to look like a classic
and
Andy over there with his default skins.
you don't want to just be like a guy with like blue rare skins. You need the legendaries. You need people to be like, shit, this guy is like, insane. But obviously the money they are using to open these boxes come from us, the watchers, who are like, oh my god, look at those skins, kind of thing. So it's like it's a win-win for them. They get cool skins, they get people watching because of the cool skins. And then the company, the true winners are the companies doing these things who are
just getting all the monies from everyone.
So much money. I mean, they probably pay a designer, which probably costs quite a bit of a designer, and then the animators, but then everything else is just pure profit.
Yeah.
Like, because it's pixels, there's no product, there's no shipping, there's nothing they have to do,
and it's all inbuilt in their service as well. So like you can just reprint it.
It's insane. Like, and I think if I'm not wrong, it's a bit off, but like in Japan. Konami, right? They used to produce like Metal Gear Solid, pretty good games and stuff. They stopped, if I'm not wrong, and this was a few years old, so I'm not sure if this has changed recently. But they basically stopped producing games. They stopped publishing games because it was better and more profitable to just make pachinko machines.
Oh really?
Yeah. For people who don't know, pachinko machines are like, how would you describe them? Like
they're like little rating balls that you drop into little pockets to try to get points or something.
It was like the Western pokies machine / slots machines, we call the Americans call them slot machines, but like on crack. They're just like so much noise, so much like animation and stuff is insane. And there's like mini games that happen in it, and it's insane. It's literally Japanese.
It's like information overload. Just looking at one of them, and then you have like 7 of them lined up.
Huh? Did you try to play pachinko when you were in Japan?
I didn't play it, but I did look at the pachinko floor, and I looked at all the machines and stuff.
Yeah. So like we passed one, and I was like, look, I gotta play at least once, right? Super confusing. You obviously
super confusing for just putting balls into a certain hole.
Literally, the thing is, but you have to go up to the counter, right? You get a thing, and they give you like, let's say you buy 1,000 balls. I think they're like 2 cents each or whatever, right?
Okay.
So like 2 yen each, and so you buy 1,000, which is what was that, like 20
bucks?
How was it? 20 bucks. And they give it to you, but you have to physically carry it. And they are like 20,000 or 1,000 rather ball bearings. It gets fucking. And you're just like hauling it over, and half the mini game is you getting to your fucking pachinko station without dropping the.
Can you imagine if someone dropped one of the little baskets? Oh my god!
That's like that's like OCD's.
That's like an occupational hazard as well. People would slip on that sort of stuff.
It will kill you if you like slipped on that, because that's just, imagine dropping like 1,000 of those. You would never clean it up.
Exactly.
You need like a Dyson 5,000.
And we'll smash up the Dyson because it's literally steel bearings that are going around inside the machine.
Just destroy it, exactly. So anyway, you carry this like heaviest tray. It probably is like, I don't know, maybe like 5 kgs or whatever. But you're carrying it, and you're like shitting yourself because the balls are like obviously rolling around and shit in the tray, right? And you get there, and then the second mini game starts, which is, I have to figure out how this happens without speaking a hint of Japanese, And so you're just putting balls and you're pressing random buttons, and then shit goes wild. Like it's the most like, if you're epilepsy and you played that, you would die within like a second, because the flashing lights were crazy. It's insane. It's just the most crazy game. It's like RGB on steroids,
like
man.
the sun in front of your face or something.
It's like literally looking into the sun, in terms of you will go blind if you looked into too long. But secondly, as well, like you're in the back of it, you're like, why the fuck am I doing this? Why am I playing this crazy ass game? But yeah, so going back into it, Konami stopped making games because of that, right? And so it really shows you, like, it's the age-old thing of, it's not so much about the product. It's like that gambling feel, that like thrill of like that thrill you can offer. Same things with casinos, and it's classic, which is not surprising really. But let's get back into gaming. What, apart from Apex, have you played? You're a huge fan of Final Fantasy. 14.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, Final Fantasy 14 is an MMO, which is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. Right? Did I say it wrong? Yeah. Um, and it's different from the. It's kind of, I guess, different from the other Final Fantasies in that there's a very big story as well. There's the similar part. The difference is that you're playing with other people.
Yeah. So I suppose with Final Fantasy, what a lot of people have been putting into it, because it's a very story-oriented game. It's more of like a big Final Fantasy game where you have other people there with you. But you are playing through the story if you want to, all by yourself and stuff. But you need other players to defeat the big bosses and stuff. And recently, there have been a big influx of Final Fantasy players, which is good to see. It means I think a lot of people are liking on how the
Yeah, actually, no, you're right. I remember on Steam the other day. I think, sorry, not on Steam, on one of the gaming kind of websites. They said that Steam broke its concurrent, like its record for highest concurrent players on FF14, like ever.
yeah.
So there's a lot of players right now. Why is there something new?
I think there's a myriad of reasons. Like a lot of the biggest competitors like aren't performing or showing too well. That's definitely World of Warcraft. A lot of people are not happy with the direction where they're going. And with maybe like a content drought or something, they're ready to dip their toes into something new, which is I think is very normal. I mean, as a player, you shouldn't have extreme loyalty to one game where you don't want to play anything else. So a lot of people are kind of like dipping their toes into something that a lot of people are promoting as like a better experience, so to say. So we have this large influx of players, and with I suppose a new expansion pack that's coming out at the end of the year. At the middle of the year, I suppose if you're just starting, you do kind of need that 3-4 months to catch up on the content.
Unless you're me, and you play it like a week, and then you burn out and never touch the game again. Talking about FF14, actually, before I forget, did you see the on you don't have Facebook, but on Facebook there is a I guess a marketing kind of thing that's going on right now, a crossover.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Guess who FF14 has done a crossover with?
Is it another Square game or is it somewhere else?
The thing is, exactly right. You would think a Square game, an anime, or I mean, it's crossed over with anime before many times. You know, what was the anime crossed over with?
The Yokai Watch or something.
Yeah. Terrible anime, by the way. Anyway, so you assume crossovers with gaming, with something related, kind of to that culture. No, it's crossing over with YD, the clothing store.
Really? Oh.
The suit and pants store. And they're giving away, if I'm not wrong, they're giving away a laptop that can play the game, obviously, which really isn't that hard. Like, a pretty medium build would play FF14. And they're giving away like a Realm Reborn and all that shit, blah blah blah, right? And it's insane. Like, what? Who in the boardroom?
Yeah.
When they were like, who should we cross over with? Firstly, why YD? Like, why YD? Who
approached who? Who approached who? That's the question. All
right now, I'm gonna say something that probably get us a bit of hate, but the only people who I know who shop at YD are like Chads. They're like, because YD has that kind of clientele. It just does. Chads, and so they go in and they're like, oh yeah, bro, I need something that will fit my fucking like 40-inch biceps and shit or whatever, right?
Yeah. And they're like,
and then on the flip side, that fucking like checkout person is gonna be like, by the way, do you want to enter a draw to play an MMO? You know what an MMO is? You have to click shit, and he's like, like it doesn't fit right now. It doesn't make sense. And so it was the most just like almost surreal kind of crossover that I've ever seen. But on the flip side of things as well, it really shows you the power of gaming. That they have much money now. They're like retail companies are approaching them. I assume to be like, look,
I think it's a good sign that I think gaming as itself is becoming a much more accepted part of just like society and stuff. You can see it like you were there when they had the big hype where they had a dedicated gaming stream stuff for the TV. They have a channel for the other competitors.
Yeah, New Zealand has one. New Zealand is it called the S League? S. There was a gaming channel, an esports channel.
Yeah,
that I remember. I can't remember if it blew up, but yeah.
But it goes over like all the competitive gaming and stuff, and then like maybe like 10, 15 years ago, that would, if you mentioned that to someone, they would just laugh at you, right? Because it was inconceivable that it was such a niche kind of thing that people like put with like all people that are nerds that those that play games. But I think it's a lot more accepted nowadays, which is big. I mean, like with collabs and stuff as well. I know during the fan fest they were introducing a lot of different collabs. They mentioned that they were doing a lot of different collabs, and two of the ones that they mentioned was there was a watch company, Citizen. They collabed with Citizen to make 2 watches for Final Fantasy. Yeah,
Really?
they did one with Citizen, and then they did one with Fender, the guitar company. Yeah,
what?
they have a. Yeah, they have.
But FF is such a massive success. FF14 is a huge success.
Yeah.
As an MMO, and it's kind of sad because Blizzard had basically was the top of the mountain, for MMOs. WoW, World of Warcraft was wildly successful, was amazing. The beauty about WoW obviously is they had built the lore up since Warcraft 1, 2, 3 is where it blew up, right? With the Frozen Throne and all that kind of stuff. And then they released WoW, and everyone's like, shit, I want to get into it. I want to play with like Illidan, I want to play with Kael Thalas, blah blah blah. And so like they had years and years to build this massive product, and obviously a huge fan following. So when they hit the market, it was massive. WoW was huge. And then FF14, they did something basically with one. Well, it wasn't the first one. It wasn't a Realm Reborn. Let's be honest, that was a piece of shit. But they created something where I don't know. They managed to build a fan base in one game. Basically, is what I'm saying. It wasn't just like okay, let's like Blizzard didn't just release WoW and it hit the ground. They released Warcraft 1, 2, 3, Frozen Throne, and then it hit with WoW. And so it's insane how well Square Enix has done with FF14, thanks to the producers and stuff, obviously. And anyone I guess who has played FF14 will know that it's very much because of everything after A Realm Reborn. Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, the second one, and then Shadowbringers.
So a lot of things people will hear is that they'll get better after the first bit, which is like the first bit was when they came. If they knew the story behind it, they came out of a very failed 1.0 launch, and they had to remake the whole game. So the 2.0 or Realm Reborn.
They literally had to reborn it. It was so shit. I mean, for people who don't know, it's the first one, A Realm Reborn, is literally one of the most like. It's just so bad. It's so grindy. It's so long, and the cutscenes are not good. The voice acting is terrible, and the worst thing is the wives aren't that hot in it. There's no wives in it. But Heaven's Ward was the wives. Woo!
They just get better and better.
Everyone claps. Everyone claps. All right. I mean, the thing is, to jump back into the whole thing you said about back then, if you said competitive gaming and stuff, people would laugh. It's like a loser thing back then, right? It wasn't even competitive gaming. It was gaming in general. I remember in high school, when I was gaming. Okay, now that let's say you're in high school right now, right? And you have those like 2-week breaks, 3-week breaks, whatever. Those big breaks. Would you spend the whole 2 weeks playing games?
I'd spend as much as I can.
Easily, right? I could easily spend the whole 2 weeks like just gaming nowadays. And the thing is, nowadays it's standard. You see on Twitch all the time, 24-hour streams where people just play games for a whole day, like no problem, right? Crazy. No one says shit about it. It's pretty standard, right? Back then, for those 2 weeks, I remember it was Guild Wars 1, and I was like grinding my assassin, I want to say. And so it was Guild Wars 1. I was grinding it. I played 2 weeks literally straight. It was like 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. days kind of thing, or even later actually. I just grinded, and I played it for 2 weeks straight. And I got so much shit in high school. They were like, like the classic, like get alive, blah 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 blah, that kind of shit. Yeah, I mean, it's just high school. It's just what it is. I'm not trying to be like, I was bullied or anything. Probably was, but what I'm trying to say is like now it's so acceptable. Gaming is so mainstream now that it's almost kind of annoying the hipster in me is like, fuck. I was gaming before it was cool.
Before it was cool. I was here in the early days.
No, what I'm trying to say is they don't get the shit we had to go through, man, before it became mainstream. You know, to like games back then was like sacrilege.
You keep it secret.
It was like, oh, what did you do? Oh, I hung out with friends.
TV.
But you wouldn't say the second part of like, oh, I hung out with friends on WoW for like fucking 48 hours straight. Chase like a time lost proto drink, some bullshit.
I went to a
like,
friend's house. And the second part is to have a LAN party or something.
I went to my friend's house to play the same things we could do if we just stayed at home and played it online kind of thing. Talking about LAN parties, when was the last time you went to?
Like, are you counting LAN parties like bring your own computer or like couch side, like a Nintendo Switch or something?
No, I'm talking like bring your own computer or a net cave, like a proper like a whole room full of sweaty dudes, playing 4v4 Counter-Strike or some shit.
That would have been a long time ago. I think it was still middle or high school back then. So
I feel like nowadays it's such a back then. You pack up your PC, you go, no problem. And back then we had CRTs, man. They were massive. But I feel like nowadays, I don't know, we're so spoiled. If let's say we decide to have a LAN party, I would say no. Basically because firstly, I would need to lug my like 2 screens over, which is a pain in itself as its own, because I can't play with just one screen anymore. It's just not possible. Right, I just need 2 screens nowadays, right? I need to lug my like headset over and all these like peripherals and like all these kind of fancy stuff just to set it up there. And half the thing is you could just be at home being comfortable in your like gaming chair or whatever, playing games. And I think like that whole social aspect of LAN parties and stuff has died because back then it was only like TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we're on Discord right now. Discord's fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think another big thing about that nowadays, especially I don't know if you've visited an internet cafe lately or not, but a lot of these new games coming out are like account bound. Like you need to have an account.
Yeah.
There's no LAN function.
Yeah.
And at this point of time with the internet coming so far, like New Zealand has fiber. I mean, we're getting some decent speeds here.
Decent, yeah. Like NZ finally dipping its toes into like the modern NHA. Like I remember when I mean every time I say this, people like get all offended and shit. They're like, "Oh, let me stay in New Zealand, bro. Fucking like get away." Like, what the fuck? All I'm saying is like the world's ahead of us, and like all these NZ people get butthurt and shit. In fact, me saying this now, we're probably gonna get butthurt anyway. So like, man. But anyway, rant's over. What I'm trying to say is, when I first came here to NZ, like I think it was like probably 2 decades ago now. We came over from Singapore, right? And we had pretty good speeds in SG in Singapore. And we came here and oh my god, we were like, wait, your internet has bandwidth? Like what the fuck is a limit? Like how do you have only 20 gigs a month and shit?
That's crazy.
And the thing is, like, when you don't grow up with a limit, you don't know how much 20 gigs of internet goes, really, and it's fast. 20 gigs of internet is nothing.
Nowadays, it's definitely nothing.
Nowadays, you stream like one video and it's over.
It's all gone.
It's over. Yeah, and we have to get onto that. I want to talk about that as well. But yeah, it's nowadays everything's so heavy that I can't imagine being capped at 20 gigs
it's not
anymore.
Possible anymore.
Yeah, it's not possible. So when we first came, it was like, holy shit, this is basically dial-up. What the fuck's happening in this country? And then I remember the hype of like, oh, we're getting fiber and shit. And it was like, like the rest of the world has had fiber for a long time. And every time I say these people are like, but not people in fucking Indonesia. Yeah, like fuck off, man. Irrelevant. Let's not just pull out some country. I can just say, oh yeah, our internet is better than fucking Stewart's Island. Doesn't mean shit. But what I'm trying to say is like, for example, South Korea. Apparently in South Korea, the internet is so fast you can download a full, I think 4K movie in less than like a minute or some shit. Like someone, it was insane. It was absolutely insane.
I think at that point it's all down to like your computer's like read and write speed, right? Because it just depends on the processing power of your computer. That is stopping
exactly. Like how fast can your computer download it? And the internet, I mean, Korea is probably the pioneer of esports, so I'm not surprised they have one of the best internets as well. It's insane there. I mean, there's so much, I guess, money in gaming now that kind of internet has to follow suit. There's so many internet providers, in fact, that sell things specially for like gaming. You know, they're like, oh, gaming speeds. What the fuck's a gaming speed
what
anyway?
is a gaming
Like,
speed anyway? Yeah.
it's funny because like, let's say I wasn't gaming, right? It's almost like, I mean, we talked about this last podcast. It was in the 40 minutes of deleted content, but but we talked about the last podcast. But everything is like gamer now, you know, like gaming chairs, gaming
Keyboards.
I don't know, underwear.
Gaming, yeah.
Actually, I've seen gaming underwear. I'm pretty sure I have seen gaming underwear. And it's like, oh, be comfortable when you get. It's just ridiculous shit like that, you know. There's much for gaming, but yeah, what? So if you're a gamer, obviously you want fast internet. But if you are just a normal user, you can use dial-up. Like, what the fuck's a gaming speed? I could rant for days about it. This gaming peripheral bullshit. I mean, I'm a sucker for it. I'm a huge Razer fan, even though I know like Razer standards have apparently fell. Never had an issue, but you know, I'm a huge gaming peripherals fan. Everything I have right now is RGB. My fucking desk is like an epileptic
It's a
nightmare.
rainbow unicorn vomit on your desk right now.
It's literally a rainbow. I mean, it probably worldwide, right? It's insane because they slap game onto anything and they sell it for like $300 more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, it also goes the other way around because they slap gamers on it. People start to hate it now. It's the common thing to be like, oh, you got a gamer chair, oh, you're a fucking nerd, right? So I was looking at office chairs the other day, and so I was on Reddit, right? And I was like, you know, I'm looking at the standard, your Secret Labs, your DX Racers, your what you call it, Razer Iskers, blah blah blah, all those kind of like, and you know, I say this again in speech kind of quotation marks, gaming chairs, right? The only reason why is because they are actually they say they are designed for you to sit in it for long periods of time, which is what we need. You know, my chair right now is not comfortable, right? Because sitting it for like 8-9 hours a day, gaming, editing, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at these, and then I go on Reddit. I'm like, are they good and stuff? And people are like, no, man, you know, don't pay a premium for like gaming products. Just buy a good office chair. And then you're like, oh, what do you recommend? And they're like, oh, what is that brand? It's like Harman. Yes.
Yeah, Harman.
Yeah, whatever. Harman Numa, right? They're like, oh, don't buy that. Buy Harman Numas. I don't know if you guys know. Harman Numas are like $1,000. $1,000 for a chair, and they're like, yeah, but you need to buy one every 10 years, you know. And like, yeah, I get it. You know, you buy things that last a long time. You know, you buy a thing, but I don't think it kind of hurts. Like if they were like pay $100 every year for 10 years, yeah, do that.
No interest free. Okay, I'll do that. Easy.
No problem. You see, like people always do this, and people who don't. A lot of listeners obviously never studied finance, right? There is a thing called the almost like the monetary power of like now. Like money is worth more now than it will be in 10 years because your money you have now, you can invest it, you can buy something now, you can do it now, right? So there's huge power in now, in the time of now. And I don't want to get into finance too much because it's not that kind of podcast. But what I'm trying to say is, yes, it's still $1,000 fucking dollars. It's paying $1,000 for a chair right now, and that's the pain that is like, what the hell, you know? And it's the stupidest like things. They're like, oh, but you know, you could get it secondhand from like Craigslist for $100 because that's how I found it. And because
I don't want to sit on a secondhand chair, which I don't know what people were doing on, man.
I mean, no, they were fast on it. But what I'm trying to say is not only that, firstly, those deals are hard to find. It's $1,000 chair that's selling secondhand for $100. You don't find them easily. Common sense is that, right? So I have back pain right now. I'm looking for constructive advice. I say my back hurts because my chair is shit. I want to buy a new chair, and you're like, just wait for like 4 months, bro. You'll find a chair for $100. What the fuck? Like,
that's unreasonable. You know?
Stupid. Like all these are just so annoying. Like I want some good reviews of, okay, these other chairs are decent, you know. I'm asking about Secret Labs. Tell me that, oh, it's shit. Buy the Razer, buy this, buy that instead. Don't tell me, oh, let's buy a $1,000 chair that you can find sometimes on secondhand for $100. What the fuck?
That's crazy.
Like, Anyway, rant's over about gaming chairs. To be honest, I am actually looking at probably buying a Secret Labs because my chair right now, it's meant to be all comfy and shit, but it's not.
Do you
It's
do you
not,
find
so
those
maybe
gaming chairs comfortable? I feel like a lot of them. I suppose I've only seen like the cheap ones that you see at like the warehouses and stuff.
the cheap ones at like the warehouse stationery are pretty shit. But that being said, do you know the warehouse started selling DX races?
Really, like proper ones.
Yeah, a proper like the branded DX races, the proper DX races, not the shitty bucket seat in on a fucking frame.
Yeah, I've seen a bucket seat on a
proper
trick
DX.
frame, and I've sat in those, and those are like, ow, this
Not
hurts.
comfortable. The cheap ones are definitely not comfortable. They're just basic like shitty chairs, you know. The X Racers apparently are pretty comfy. The Razer Iskas are apparently pretty comfy. Secret Labs Secret Labs in general are pretty stiff, but once you get to it, is like it fixes your back. Apparently,
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. So there's like massive, you know, there's massive kind of like money in gaming gear in general, but there's also massive money in gaming, right? And I don't think, I mean, going again, we tangent so much, but going back to that whole thing about esports.
Yep.
Esports nowadays is insane, right? Like did you hear about 2020's Dota 2's the international prize pool?
Oh, I haven't yet. I know. I've been following. I remember the first time it went over 1 million, people went wild. But then it was like 7 million, 9 million. It's all crowdfunded, right?
Oh my god! Yeah, it's so smart. Like, so what Dota 2 does for people who don't really know is, and to be honest, I don't even play it anymore. I used to play like fucking like 10 years ago, maybe. Dota 2 is obviously, you know, from Dota. Dota was a custom map, kind of. Yeah, it was a custom map from Warcraft 3, the Frozen Throne. And it basically started the genre of MOBAs. What's MOBA? What is MOBA? Massively
Battle Arena or
online
something.
Yeah, Battle Arena. So multiplayer online Battle Arena. I just looked it up. So anyway, that's what a MOBA is, right? And it launched the whole genre of it. So for people who you know are familiar with stuff like League of Legends, and Smite, blah blah blah, all the like millions of things that came out, right? That's what Dota 2 is. So, you know, long story short, it launched, and then they started doing their international tournaments, and they call it the international.
This is the world,
yeah, which is Worlds, yeah, basically. So like TI for short, right? And what they do is they started by selling kind of like crate packages or like aesthetic not mods, aesthetic skins and stuff. And all the money from this kind of like the international sale, I guess, event goes to the prize pool. In 2020, the prize pool for the international was 34 million USD.
34 billion. Whoa.
34 million USD. That was the prize pool.
That's crazy.
I mean, obviously, the top winners don't win the whole thing. They don't win the whole thing. But I can't remember how it breaks down. But they probably from that. I mean, I can have a look right now. But let's.
I'm sure it's like a first, second, third split. Yeah.
Shit ton of money, whatever it is. No matter what you win, as the top person, you get a shit ton of money.
It's big money that people are playing for.
Yeah, it was 34 mil point whatever. And it's insane because back then, you know, like your parents always were like, don't play games, you won't get a
there's no future in this. Yeah.
16-year-olds who play Minecraft who are richer than us.
Definitely.
And Minecraft is a shit game. Right? I'm sorry. Do you like Minecraft right now?
I don't mind it. It's very creative in this way.
Yeah. I get that it's creative. I get that it's meant to be, you know, like wholesome and shit. I mean, why would you play in like 8-bit, man? Or not 8-bit? Is it 16? Whatever. Why would you play in that kind of graphics? It just hurts. And the funny thing is, the graphics are so bad, but it takes so much PC power to crunch it because it's so big. It's like a never
world, right? It's continuously generated the more you walk away.
And it's like I built my computer to play shit like, you know, like Crisis, right? Or whatever. You know, and then you're playing a game that looks like ours. But you can't even run it because it's so huge. Yeah, you literally need a NASA computer to crunch that shit, man.
They're really big worlds. I do remember having worlds that were getting too big that you had to just start a new world.
Yeah, it was so big that you couldn't load it. Like
that being really bad.
Yeah. I don't like. I mean, it's funny because Minecraft started basically kind of indie, and to go into indie games, have you noticed that there's a huge explosion of indie games nowadays?
I've seen a lot more, especially on like Steam and stuff.
especially
Yeah.
yes, exactly. One of our friends, Max, who may be a guest on the show in the future, he's a massive fan of indie games. And in fact, I would say he introduced me to indie games. In fact, it's almost to the point where he would more frequently, I guess, play an indie game than a AAA
Right.
game. You know, like Assassin's Creed, blah 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 blah, is a big like nah. You know, but stuff like The Binding of Isaac, Hades, or whatever. You know, those
Yeah.
games, absolutely top of his list for them. But the thing is, and I kind of am starting to agree with him. Indie games have such they're usually done so well. Well, okay, the good ones, the
Okay.
good ones. For example, Supergiant, right? Supergiant created the Hades franchise. They created Transistor. Most of the first ever game they made, the
Bastion.
Yeah, Bastion, yes. Bastion was a masterpiece. It was so good.
Very good.
The story was beautiful, right? Exactly. It was a beautiful game. And so that's an indie company still. And then you compare that to the shit that we get, like, you know, the 170th version of FIFA.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I think the big difference with the indie companies is that they're allowed to be a lot more creative with their work because they don't have to go through that AAA producer. And that obviously, like when you go through a producer, they're not game producers. They're looking at to see if there's a profit behind it, right? And then you have to prove to that there's a profit. But as an indie developer, then you can really get creative with your work, and that's where a lot of the talents can shine, really. And a lot of them become passion projects, right? A lot of the games are passion projects from
crowdfunded, and they're huge, and and a lot of it is I think exactly, you know, that there's love that goes into it, but not to get like cliche and shit. Obviously, you know, love makes a better product, but I think it's also the writing. You know, like you said, they can be more creative. They can write something that's like a bit like crazy, a bit like out of the norm story. Most of the games we play nowadays, Ray, me and you know that it's so cliche, man. We know half the story before it even starts. And yet, on the other side of things, AAA companies are getting bigger and bigger, like budgets.
Yeah.
One of the biggest AAA games to come out in recent years, or in the recent year, I would say, obviously CP77, Cyberpunk 2077. Now, Cyberpunk, when it came out, you and I know, massive controversy, right? It wasn't optimized. It was very badly run for the console players. We use PCs, so I was unaffected.
Luckily.
So kind of, you know, don't be a shit cunt and don't use a console. Now, but it was a massive thing. It wasn't optimized properly. The PS4 experience, and I saw footage of this, was absolutely shit. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. And this is from a AAA company. This is why Max has lost, you know, our friend rather has lost faith in these AAA companies, because they make this kind of games. And you know, you have your Ubisoft that keeps churning out Assassin's Creed with like just the same game, different skins. You have Ubisoft with the Far Cry games, which is the same things as well. Ever since Far Cry 3, the same things. Yeah.
They found something that worked and they just kept trying to replicate it again and again.
And that's the problem. Far Cry 3 worked because it was new, it was novel, the villain was amazing, it was a great open world. Far Cry 4 was kind of shit. It was okay. I played it. It was okay. Far Cry 5, I couldn't finish. It's so boring. It's the same thing over and over, and it's just basically America.
Right.
You know, I don't want to play a game that's basically just real life America. You know, it's just racism and crazy religious people.
It's just
that are like against each other.
Right.
So what's new?
Yeah. It's like they didn't make a story. They just went outside and turned a video call on it and use it as a story.
They just turn on the news. They're like, "Oh shit! No one will ever see that we copied this."
Turned on the news and just turned everything by like 1.2 times, and then just we have a game now.
Oh, and before we forget, the best Far Cry series, Far Cry Primal. What the fuck was that?
I don't even remember that. I think I blocked that from my memory.
It was the one that launched you being able to like communicate with animals or like possess them or whatever, like ride them and shit, right? But it was so what? In what world Do I want to play from a series that's Far Cry 1, 2, 3, and the makers of Crysis, one of the most like intensive games? You know, the whole Cry engine, right, was known for being beautiful. You know, amazing textures, amazing graphics, amazing color, vibrant, you know, environments and stuff, right? And having basically a shooty, right? You shoot shit in that kind of world, which is amazing. Far Cry 1, if I'm not wrong, was Aliens, so that was great, pretty fun. I remember my computer like died playing Far Cry 1. Far Cry 2 was a bit weird. I'm pretty sure it was in like Africa or something. It was a bit weirder. Far Cry 3, like I said, amazing game, right? So Far Cry, really, really good. So all this time you were shooting guns, and then they're like, hey, you know what? Our market's really about FPS players. They really like shooting stuff. They like their gunplay. They like their gameplay, gun mechanics. They like that kind of stuff. But you know what we should do? We should make one with spears and fucking bows.
And rock.
What? Yeah, and rocks, and like you can ride a woolly mammoth. Who gives a shit, mate? You know, like literally one game ago, I was riding a helicopter or like a jeep.
Don't ride this big ass mammoth. I think maybe it would be cool if you had like a gun on top of it, but you know.
And so sometimes it's like you say about creativity. I'm not surprised that AAA producers or publishers put a limit on creativity, because when they create shit like Far Cry Primal. Like some guy sat in a room for, I'm sorry, whoever, if they will never be listening to this, but if they are, bro, what the hell? That is a terrible game. I'm sorry. So anyway, going back to CP77, right? You know, it was like really, really bad, basically unplayable. But they had such a big budget that they could have Keanu Reeves in it. Keanu fucking Reeves.
Yes,
and
he came out for the opening, right? Or the press event. The press event.
He was a massive character. He played a big role. He wasn't just a cameo, man. And he played a huge role in it. He, you know, obviously they had to what do you call it, rig him up and stuff so that he could do all the motion capture and shit. And it's pretty cool. He plays Johnny Silverhand, which is basically a bounty hunter of legend. And I guess CP's still quite new, so I don't want to spoil it, so I won't say too much about that. But pretty cool. The way they put him into a game, pretty cool. What I would say though is obviously his budget. I mean, you don't get Keanu Reeves for like $20 an hour.
Exactly.
Right? Let's be honest. So clearly, I'd rather they not use Keanu Reeves, and you know, put money into making the game good at launch.
That's true. That's true.
Is that not common sense? Because the thing is, how many people? How do I phrase this? You have Keanu Reeves in the game, right? And yeah, he will make a memorable character because it's Keanu Reeves. But how many more characters do you remember from games where it's not a pre-existing celebrity which have been so impactful? I can name so many, man. You know, you don't need a A-lister to make a game character awesome. Mass Effect, classic. Love everyone in the squad, apart from a few. I'll get into that. Final Fantasy 14, so many. All the Scions, amazing. All have their quotes, all have their little things. You know, you love all of them, apart from Uranger, who can't swim, right? Travel through the portals of literally time and space.
Can't swim.
But he can't swim. What? Anyway,
yeah.
It's not start the Uranger rant.
I think it's a great like sort of like bonus for players, but like as I just said before, no one's gonna go buy a game just because Keanu Reeves in it. Maybe like 2 or 3, but it's not your target audience, right?
It's not. It's very gimmicky, you know. It feels like very much appealing to like the like, I don't know, the normies who are like, look, we have Keanu Reeves, and it's like, okay, cool. Look, I have Commander Shepard, man. Like, you know, who cares about Keanu Reeves?
Keanu Reeves or Commander Shepard.
What I will say though is, on the flip side of things, the celebrities that you do absolutely want to get for games are the good voice actors.
Definitely.
You know, your Jennifer Hale, blah blah blah. All the kind of like top tier voice actors. Holy shit, they make the game
that can, like,
that much better.
Breathe life into characters are definitely
classic example, FF14. First one, Realm Reborn, worst voice acting I've ever seen. Terrible, absolutely terrible. Heavens Were Onwards, the voice acting got so good, right? Like it was so much better. Another example, Ghost of Sushi. Ghost of Sushi's Japanese. I don't know if you played it. Have you played it actually?
No,
Ghost of Tsushima?
actually, isn't
You
Is it
really
on
should, man. It
is it
really
on a
should.
console
It's
or is
fantastic.
it PC as well?
Unfortunately, it's PS, I think 4 or
Okay.
5 only.
Right.
Yeah, you can borrow my PS4 to play it. I literally rebooted my PS4 just to play thing. But yeah, so Ghost of Sushi's Japanese voice acting is like out of this world. It's so good for a video game that I was actually blown away. I loved it. I loved every second of the voice acting. So those are the kind of people you want to get. You don't want to get like Keanu Reeves and shit just for the sake of getting Keanu Reeves,
True,
you
true,
know?
true. Getting
And
getting into
so
voice acting and stuff. Because voice acting is really important in like gaming and stuff, but it's also important in like the TV shows and everything, right? Yeah,
anime,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
It's
I mean,
huge.
there's huge. It's been around. When I started watching anime, it's been well, many years now. But when I first started watching till now, there's always been a debate about dub versus sub. You know,
Yes, yes.
I am super purist. Like I'm one of those who like am so pure that in terms of anime purist styles that I can't watch dub.
You
Like, I
can't
just
watch.
can't.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't.
Well, I
Dub for
default
sure.
to dub as well. I was to sub as well, usually most of the time.
Yeah.
But I have heard there are a few outstanding
Yes.
ones out there that are dubbed that
Yeah.
are like better
Yeah.
than the sub version. Um,
Cowboy Bebop's dub, amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. But everyone says that, Bacano's
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. Uh,
Definitely.
the some of the series as well, like I guess it depends on the kind of anime, like some of it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. For example, like what's a pretty like gritty kind of anime? I guess Castlevania,
Okay, yeah,
maybe.
Castlevania.
Okay, let's say Castlevania, or even Bacano, or um let's just say, for example, like Black Lagoon, like a really gritty, dark
Yes.
anime, right? But the thing is, Japanese, how do I phrase this non-offensively? Japanese kind of voice acting is not cliche, but in some cases, it very much doesn't suit the character. So Bacano is based in, I'm not wrong, America. Castlevania is based in, I'm thinking Romania. I'm not actually
I would
sure,
assume
but
so. I
somewhere
would
in
assume
England,
so,
right?
yeah.
Sorry, somewhere in Europe, right? And then you like have like all these characters and stuff, and then you have a chick character who's like Nani,
Yeah, yeah, it
It's like
doesn't
what?
make sense.
It doesn't work. Like when it's clearly a white person. And that's when I like to watch the dub, but it's very rare. It's
Most of
very
the
rare.
time, sub
Um,
is better in a way. Yeah.
sub is the one I
Mm.
go to. It is definitely one go to. That being said, dub nowadays is
It's
it's getting
it's
very
getting
very
better
good.
and better, right?
It's very good dubs out there. But I don't know. I just can't. Like, it's not anime to me if it's not sub. There's something uncomfortable
I
about it.
think I think I think a big thing that they used there was a big issue with me was the I'm sure they're doing it better now, but the lip movement with the speaking. Yes, it didn't
yes.
like when you see them talking and then the syllables or the sentence length is different. I know it's like very difficult to do, obviously,
Yeah.
but like
Well,
it throws you off quite a bit.
it's very it's a bit of a weird topic, I guess, because most people say that, to be honest, like if you're that purist, you should be watching it in pure Japanese anyway, without the subs.
It's been that
but
purist.
but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like weeb level 100
Yeah.
mode, right? Like fully weeb mode, but like, I can't do it. I just can't. Do it dubbed. I don't know. Even like Avatar, which I know is, well, I don't want to get into the argument of whether it's anime, but Avatar, which is an animated series, right? Watching it dubbed felt uncomfortable for me, even though it was an English Nickelodeon
Right.
series. You know, in my head I was like, why is Aang not speaking in Japanese? This is so weird. And it's just like it's not like I go out of my way to be like, oh, dub sucks, but it's just super weird. Like it's almost a thing that you're so used to.
Definitely.
Um, but yeah, let's get back into gaming. Get back into gaming. Oh no, the Steam Summer Sale. Actually, I want to talk about that before we launch into anime. Steam Summer Sale is on. There's so many games for sale, right? But have you found that no matter how many new games comes out, you end up playing your same old?
Yes. So that's
Right?
like a comfort kind of food in a way. Yeah.
The thing. Like, I mean, you and I know I've played Witcher 3 way too many times, like an unhealthy number of times. Like I should probably see a therapist amount of times, right? And there's so many games that have come out since Witcher 3, but until Apex, basically, I was just playing Witcher 3. over and over and over, and then Mass Effect or
Yeah.
whatever, right? I just default back to my old school games, and I have such a specific taste now in like RPGs that I can't play from any other kind of like makers. I'm like, it has to be this or this or this, and then I try to play other MMOs and I can't. Sorry, RPGs, and I
I
just
think
can't.
it's a very big, like, you kind of know that it's gonna be good, so you don't want to risk your time on something that you might not enjoy
Yeah,
as much.
yeah, it
So you're
could
like,
be.
okay, I'm just gonna go back to what I know is good.
It
Yeah.
could be.
But I believe there's only so much times that you can do that until.
There's only so many games out there that really hit
Mm.
that mark of like masterpiece
Mm.
level, you know, like 10 out of 10. Same with anime, same with all that kind of stuff. And I guess that's the whole thing, you know, that we have probably more access to games than ever before. You know, back then you had to actually go to the CD store and buy it
Yeah.
and shit, DVD store. But now it's like you have Steam, man.
You do.
Steam, everything is at your fingertips, and yet, what's the biggest complaint that I always have, Raymond?
I don't know what to
What do I
play.
play?
I don't know what to play.
Exactly.
It's like
Literally,
I
the
don't know
biggest
what to eat,
thing.
or I don't know what to wear. Right? It's the same idea.
Yesterday we said that, you know, you literally remember like I mean yesterday we know life there and played Apex for like fucking 20 hours straight or whatever.
Yeah.
And literally one of the things I remember you saying was like, I'm actually kind of bored. I'm actually like my brain is mush, but I have nothing else to play, so I'm just playing Apex. Like what? If you go open your Steam right now, I bet you have like 200 games in your library, and probably like 150 are
Exactly.
untouched.
Yeah. There's a lot of games where it's just like, oh,
Too many games that I have not even like downloaded in my Steam. It's just
you
like in
just
my
bought
library.
it.
Yeah, I just bought. I don't even know why I bought it. I was like, oh, it's $5. I really want to play this game. Bought it. Didn't play it.
You buy it and then you just keep it. You're like, I'll play that later, and that later never comes, right?
Either later, never comes. Okay, let's
Move on to
you know, we've talked about it a bit. Let's move back to the whole anime thing. Because we are a geek culture channel, so we'll try to cover up everything. Now, what is the
what's new.
You know, I guess latest anime or what's new in the anime world?
I haven't really caught up with the new stuff yet. I've just been catching up with some old
Yeah,
stuff. But I suppose is there anything new that you've watched recently?
I don't. I'm meant to be like, I mean, for a bit of backstory for everyone, I'm meant to be the one who watches the most anime in this like podcast, and read the most manga. I'm like the weeb, the resident weeb that everyone needs. But I'm gonna be honest, man. This Apex thing
It's taking all your time. Yeah.
That being said, I finally got around to watching Bakemonogatari.
A good one. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that series.
Yeah, I know. You finished it, haven't you? Have you watched all of it?
I watched
I mean, all the seasons.
So you know how it works, where it's like different stories, and then they're like all jumbled up into like different timelines. It's like if it's like one of the ones where if you want to know the full story, they watch this one first that came out in season 3 or something, and then that. I've tried to keep up as much as possible. It's not been animated. There's like some that are short stories, right?
Like, yeah, and the thing is, like, fan base in anime is so funny because they're like real like anal about things, right? So I was trying to find out how to watch the Bakemonogatari series in you know, like in order, like what order should I watch it? Oh my god. I don't know if you ever seen this on like Reddit and shit. If you go on there, it's like, all right, guys. First, you need to crack your knuckles, and then I want you to like clean your chair out, and then you're gonna sit down, right? All right. First, so you're gonna watch episode 1 of Bakemonogatari, and then you're gonna jump into the other arcs of Monogatari, and then I want you to jump back into Bakemono, and now
go to
you're gonna
Kizu, and I go to
yeah, and then you have to jump into Kizu now and shit, and it's like what? Just
why is this
exaggerating? It's pretty intense the way they're like, okay, you have to watch it in this order
to make sense or whatever. Right. Yeah. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. The first time I watched it, I just watched Bakemonogatari, and I just watched over. Yeah. Obviously, because there are it's like not a skeleton, but there are parts that are missing that are in the other story series, right? Yeah. So there are gaps where you're like, oh, what happened with this story? But I suppose like if you're interested in that, then you can go and watch that stuff. But I mean,
let's be honest. What you mean is it depends on who you watch.
Yeah.
That's how you watch it.
Do you like this character? I'm gonna find more about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the classic Shinobu. with the toothbrush scene, massive in the anime community. Everyone loves Shinobu because of the toothbrush scene, right? Toothbrush scene, yeah, the toothbrush scene. And then there's also, I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many in Bucket, and I haven't even finished it. Within the first like 5, I'm like, okay, I can see how this is like the wife anime.
Yeah. It's a lot of different ones that people like, but it's like I think it's not a usual anime, right? Because if you watched it, it's a lot of talking and a lot of.
It's almost quite difficult to watch sometimes, to be honest. Like if you want, like if you want anime that is like shonen, action packed, or I guess classic anime, this is not it.
Yeah,
You know, it is very much like quirky, very like the writing of the comedy style, the writing, the what do you call it, the conversations, I guess.
Very interesting.
Very different.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I do like it. I do need to get onto it one day. I have so many animes that I'm like watching middle of. That I have Vivi open as well. I have Vivi in like episode 3, I think. I have shit, man. Like if I open my Crunchyroll, I could.
Do you want to continue watching?
Yeah, I have so much. I just have so much of it. I think the anime that I have caught up to date the most recently is actually Eurocamp, which is like the weirdest thing for me to be up to date on. Like, who? It is literally a bunch of middle school girls going camping, and it's like it's one that if you watch it and you are like you say the word wife, man, you're going to jail, man. You're going to prison.
It's like, not one of the wife ones.
It's not a wife one, but it's so like relaxing, man. I just watch it. I'm like, shit. I could use some what do you call it? Curry cup noodles.
Right. Didn't they make a whole category about it? Like there's like a category that's like it means feel good, right? Like, feels better or feels good.
It's like it's just a feel good anime. It's pretty good. But the most recent one that I started is your recommendation, Vivi.
So Vivi was from last season, I believe. It may be 2 seasons ago now. And then the whole
I'm so bad with casting.
The whole premise. I think it was a slept on anime during that time because the whole synopsis kind of is weird. The whole synopsis basically says there's an idol that goes back in time to try goes back in time to try save humanity or something, and that's all it says. Like when you first see it, you're like, okay, the main character has blue hair. Is it like a Miku mix up, or what's going on here? It like doesn't really.
So what Vivi is Miku saves the world.
Miku saves the world. but like when you take a look into it, I'm sure we'll go over. I think we have to say you're up to episode 3, right? The first 2 episodes. The first 2 episodes were like pretty interesting in a way. I think some of the animations were done very, very good. I don't remember. Was there any fighting in the first 2 episodes?
Kind of fighting. Yeah, she goes to save that politician dude in that building, and then the building collapses and stuff. Now, what I don't how do I'm on episode 3, so I can't really say much, right? But as someone who watches a lot of anime, I am gonna give my opinion. Vivi's art, amazing. Vivi's animation, pretty good, right? Vivi's OST, pretty good. What I don't like in any anime, to be honest, and only one anime has ever done this too, in my opinion, very well, is time travel.
Oh, right, yeah.
It never makes sense, right? For example, in episode, I think 1 or 2, the building collapses at a certain angle and she jumps over, blah, blah, blah.
I remember that.
I guess the AI could have controlled it in a way where it falls in exactly that kind of angle and stuff. But, by her being there, is that whole butterfly theory thing, right? Is that whole, by her being there, the whole past splinters off into another timeline anyway. And the whole problem with traveling back in time is it creates a time paradox unless you start going into that whole parallel universe shit.
There's so many things that seem conveniently done.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, for example, if the AI, how basically the story, guys, is an AI gets sent back in time to contact a AI, a future AI gets sent back in time to contact a singer robot AI to save the world, basically, right? The thing is, though, if she successfully saves the world, then the AI would never have been sent back in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Which then she would never have saved the world. So it's a time paradox.
Yeah.
Unless you're saying, okay, by going back in time, it creates this whole parallel universe, blah blah blah, alternate timeline.
So what does
bullshit.
it mean? Does it mean like they don't save the world? Is that why he's there?
And so in basically what it's saying is, in this scenario, there is one world where humanity is getting wrecked and wiped out and shit. It's the whole classic Terminator story.
Did you like the beginning scene when the androids were like actually wiping people out?
You know me, I love like gore. So like
pretty gruesome.
Great. Like,
sorry,
it's pretty gruesome. I love it, but like sorry. Yeah, and so like I think I said this last episode as well. The only kind of anime I've watched so far, and to be fair, I don't watch many because I avoid time travel anime like the plague, man. I can't stand it. Is Steins Gate.
Yeah, what you say that?
Steins Gate is just so good. It's so good, and it makes sense as well. And even RE0 is another good one.
Yes.
Because in RE0, he doesn't really travel back in time. He just respawns, right? At a checkpoint almost. Save. But you can see they clearly, and there will always be plot holes when it's time travel, and that's the problem with time travel. It's so hard to make sure you got 100% proof thing. But with RE0, at least you can see the writers, and it's from a light novel, right? You can see the writers and the I guess the creators really thinking like, shit, if he changes this variable, this will change. And so it's never the same story. It's not just as easy as like, I'm going to go back in time and do exactly this. And I do it because he did that. You know, Subaru does exactly the same things and gets destroyed. He gets wrecked, man.
I remember that.
Right? And so it's about like every time he does anything different in the past, something triggers something, which is the whole butterfly effect.
Cause and effect, right?
Exactly. And that was Steins Gate. That was the whole kind of premise, I guess, in a way, of Steins Gate, that if you went back in time too much, it would ruin everything. And so that's why I like Steins Gate so much, because and that's one of my top 10 animes, and it's a 10 out of 10 for me, you know. And so watching Vivi, like that whole thing, the minute they're like, where he's like, I mean, he literally programs an AI in the span of like 5 minutes of the robots cutting down the door, you know, in the first episode. And send it back in time. How does that even happen? How do you send something back in time?
Yeah.
And if he could send an AI back in time, why not just send himself back in time?
Yeah.
Or why not just, program Vivi back in time instead of sending an AI? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many kind of questions. And so, yeah, I don't think I'll continue.
Not for you.
It's like I said, when it comes to time travel, my like standards are way too high. I can't just. I guess it's that sci-fi side of me, right? Like I can't just watch a time travel and be like, yeah, that's acceptable. You know, I don't like time travel in general.
It is a topic that is like very difficult to get right. So to say,
it's nearly impossible to do. But yeah, apart from that, the other. And I don't watch simulcast because I like to watch anime whose entire season is done. So I'm always one season late.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so I'm watching what is it? The English one is Don't Toy With Me Nagotoro.
Yes, yeah. That was one of the big ones that people wanted to be animated, right?
Yeah, Don't Toy With Me Miss Nagatoro. And it's like, people want it to be anime because, wife, even though she's like fucking 12 or whatever, because people like.
Isn't the whole story of like the main guy is getting like getting bullied?
It's basically him, an NC being bullied, basically. Like forever. Is it NC?
Yeah, MC.
No, yeah. Yeah, he's being bullied, and
so.
I don't know, man.
Is it good? What do you think?
Entertaining. So far, it's entertaining. I guess it's comedy in it's very mindless. Like you just watch it for entertainment. It's not something you watch and you want like
deep story or
some
anything,
like
right?
the show level shit. Like it's just entertaining. You watch it when you kind of have like you want to like brain dead. Your brain is mush and you just want something playing. So yeah, that is I wouldn't say that's my recommendation, but that's kind of what we're up to. But yeah,
that's what
we'll
we've
see.
been following so far. But yeah, I mean, like it's one of the ones where I think they've had a few previous ones that they were talking about, right? There was the other one that is I don't remember the name, but it's a similar premise and that didn't do too well. And now I think the next one is that the Komi-san can't communicate well. I think that's the next one that people want to see. But yeah, it is really one of those, like, I suppose ones that people just watch just to watch, not to.
Yeah, I think like a lot of anime you just watch to kind of like brain down. It's very like the really intense animes you actually got to like concentrate on and sit down for. Like sometimes I don't want to watch a like Steins Gate. It's too intense, too much. I don't want to watch a monster. I want to watch like a shittiest thing ever.
Something that you relax a bit with. But yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, you need a bit of both, from intense to like slice of life chill kind of stuff. But that's just people feel like, and I suppose like for the weeks coming, we'll just catch up from a bit more anime. We've just been a bit into gaming this last 3 weeks. That's why the majority of this episode is there.
Actually, talking about the future episodes, we have a bit of a surprise next week, don't we? Hopefully, fingers crossed. Not next week, next episode. Fingers crossed. We have a bit of a surprise, so stay tuned, guys. And I think on that note, we'll probably wrap up this podcast. We do have, like I say, a bit of announcements. We do have work underway going on to try and make a YouTube kind of channel for it to film us while we're doing the podcast, kind of like the radio style kind of things they're doing, because a lot is lost in facial expressions and body language and stuff. And it'll be a bit more I guess entertaining.
Yeah. So hopefully that will be in the coming future.
So do you have any any notes before we kind of before I end up?
Well, I suppose a big thank you for our people that have actually followed us from episode 0. You guys are
like we joke about the 5 and stuff, but yeah, even if it's 5, mate, that's better than nothing, man. Thank you.
You guys are the 5 that will hopefully someday when we become like the 100k, 200k, you guys were there, and you guys could be like, oh, we were there at the beginning. We were listening to Shumimasen before it was cool.
I'm not. I mean, that's you. I'm not gonna remember them. If I'm famous, fuck you guys, man.
Don't do that. We'll remember every single one of you.
On that note, please do check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Shumimasen on all of them. You can find us. If you can't, just reach out to us.
I think YouTube is youtube.com/Shumimasen. Twitter is our Shumimasen, and then there's a pod behind it.
Yeah, at Shumimasen pod, and YouTube is just Shumimasen.
So just give us a follow. We'll update you guys through those feeds as well on the next episodes and anything that's coming up.
And for those who don't want to, I mean, most of us have Spotify Premium, but if you don't want to use any kind of like, if you want to use free Spotify without all the ads and shit, we are also on Google Podcasts now and on YouTube. So, you can find us everywhere. We're not on YouTube Music because they don't really support podcasts, which is really weird. Anyway, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.